our invocation, and Councilwoman Granger, she will lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Dear Father in heaven, we're grateful for this time which we have to meet together and discuss the affairs of Washington City. We ask you bless us with the inspiration and the humility to approach these decisions and issues with great care and great concern for every facet of our city. We thank thee for the freedoms of this land that have been given to us by those who have lined out our duty to God and to this country. Please help us that as we do our best, that thy grace will be with us. Please bless the proceedings of this day, that there will be peace and understanding and order, that we'll be able to move along the issues of our city in a respectful way. These things we pray in the name of thy Son, Jesus Christ. Amen.
Thank you.
Please join in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. All right, we'll move on to item 1, approval of the agenda.
Mayor, I'll make a motion to approve the agenda as outlined.
Second.
Have a motion and a second.
Ward aye. Clough aye.
Granger, aye.
Belliston, aye.
Thank you. We need to excuse Councilman Turek and our city manager tonight. They're out of town. Item 2, announcements. Anything to announce from this body?
I think there's an open house for the fire station tomorrow.
Tomorrow at 4 o'clock at our new fire station out in Coral Canyon. We'll do a ribbon cutting, and it's a joint venture that we have with Hurricane Valley Fire Department. So it's a new adventure here in Washington County. We're looking forward to it. So you're welcome to come out. Nothing else. Item 3, declaration of abstentions and conflicts. Any to declare at this time from the council? If not, we'll move on to item 4, consent agenda, to approve the minutes from city council meetings 9/24/19 and 9/25/19. Board audit report, consideration to approve the board audit report for August and September 2019. And a final plat, consideration to approve the final plat for Rusted Hills Phase 4, located approximately Bronco Drive and Fremont Street. Applicant Doug Dennett. And consideration to approve the final plat for Chaparral Ridge Phase 4, located approximately Hidden Canyon Drive and Crooked Creek Drive. Applicant Kent Rasmussen. Any questions or comments on the consent agenda?
Mayor, I'll go ahead and make a motion that we approve the consent agenda as you outlined.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. Start us off, Councilman.
Belliston, aye.
Granger, aye.
Clough aye. Ward aye.
Thank you. Item 5, proclamation. Washington City Youth Council reading a proclamation declaring this year to be a drug-free year. Carmen Snow. I know you're not going to do it, Carmen.
Hello, I am Cambry Richardson, Mayor of Washington City Youth Council, and this is Brooke, our social chair, Sky over our leisure services, and Jacob, one of our councilmen, and Becca over city manager. Thank you for letting us be included in Washington City Night, which was a huge success. We loved it. We are here today to present a proclamation that has been signed by Mayor Nelson. A lot of youth aren't here because of concerts, work, and other obligations, but we're all very concerned with the drug problem. One man under the age of 30 actually died today in Utah because of the use of vaping, and 27 have died in 22 states. That's why we want to proclaim Washington City drug-free for the month of October. Whereas the Washington City Youth Council want children and other youth to know about the dangers of drug abuse, and whereas we will seek children and other youth to follow rules of not using drugs, and whereas we will set a good example for children and other youth by not using illegal drugs, which includes tobacco, electric cigarettes, or medicine without a prescription. And now, therefore, the Washington City Youth Council, along with the Washington City Council, duly declares the month of October 2019 in the city of Washington, Utah, drug-free, and encourages everyone who cares about children and youth to do the same. Mayor Nelson, would you come down so we can present this proclamation to you?
Thank you. We'll post it out here. Yeah, right there for a photo op.
Picture at the end.
While the mayor's coming up there, I'll just say that was well done. Thank you. It was a pleasure to hang out with some of you at Washington City Night, and thank you for your participation and handing out some good hot dogs and helping out with that.
And we asked you excuse because all of them would be somewhere else.
Okay.
So,
You bet. Thank you very much. Thanks for taking the time to come.
thank you.
Okay, we'll move on to item 6, Planning Commission appointment. Consideration to confirm the mayor's recommendation to appoint a member to the Planning Commission. As we discussed with you last night, I'd like to recommend that we ask Brian Musso to serve on the Planning Commission. Have him become the alternate and have Monty Holly move up out of the alternate spot. Any questions or comments?
I
Were
think
you gonna do anything with the chair?
Yeah, that's the next
In a
one.
minute.
Sorry.
Oh,
Next time.
I think those that know Brian, he's been an appraiser in the area for a long time. He also serves on the appeals board at the county for, valuations appeals on property values. So he has a good understanding of the market. He has a good understanding of the area. He has a good understanding of values, and he would be a benefit to the Planning Commission. So with that, Mayor, I'd make a motion that we confirm your recommendation of Brian Musso to appoint the alternate seat on the Planning Commission.
Second.
a motion and a second.
Ward aye.
Clough, aye.
Granger, aye.
Bellis and I.
That's approved, and I appreciate your support, council. Item B, consideration to confirm the mayor's recommendation to appoint a planning commission chair. I've asked Craig Coates if he would serve in that capacity for however long.
Mayor, I'm grateful. Craig has done a great job in leadership, and I think he does a wonderful ability of just addressing needs and concerns before it comes to us, and I appreciate his vision and leadership on that. So if there's no other conversation on that, I'd like to make a motion to confirm your recommendation of putting Craig Coates as the Planning Commission Chair.
Second.
Thank you. I have a motion and a second.
Ward aye.
Clough, aye.
Granger, aye.
Bellis and I.
All right, that's approved, and I again appreciate your support on that, council. Item 7, public hearings. Public hearing for consideration to approve zone change request Z-19-12. A request to amend the PCD plan community development for Stuckey Farms. The specific amendment is to amend the site plan for Village 11 from low density to medium high.
Thank you, Mayor. And before we get started, I was emailed Monday by the applicant. They requested that this item be tabled until the first meeting in November. I guess it'll be, the first meeting in November. And that's what they're asking you as the council, if you would table the item. Now, again, in the past, we know there's probably people here for this, and you've allowed to have a public hearing at both meetings. That's, again, the council's discretion to do so. But again, the applicant's asking that this be tabled, so they want to have their public hearing that first council meeting in November, which I think is the 13th, if I remember right. And so then you'd end up either having all your public input tonight, and then those who didn't make it tonight that showed up that night, allow them to have their public comment if that's what you choose to do. But I'm just relaying that the applicant's asked to be tabled, and staff has no problem with tabling it till November 13th.
I'll leave that up to the council if they would like to.
Was there
Pursue.
some conversation about a video presentation? Was that this item?
So what we've done,
There is one of the, possibly,
We could,
if we allow the public.
yeah,
hearing.
if we allow public comment tonight, then those people that comment tonight probably won't have that opportunity in 2 weeks, but other people would. But if people are here and they want to comment tonight and don't want to wait for 2 weeks, Mayor, I just make a motion that we allow them to do so.
Do you mind if I question the gallery?
No.
Who would be here for that particular item? Okay.
so what,
And how many of you would it be a hardship for you to come back to the rescheduling? That's 2 weeks?
It's actually 4
So 4
weeks. Yeah,
weeks.
it'll be a month from today is what
Would
they're
that be a
asking.
hardship to ask you to come back so we can have that all together? That would be okay? Thank you.
the issue I have, when we did this, the last time we had the public hearing, the applicant wanted it tabled and then pulled. Now he has a public hearing and he wants to table it. And you got people that are here. Let's hear from them like we did last time, and then, see where it goes. But don't call a public hearing and then table it for the same project multiple times in a row.
I'm just a messenger, but I get it.
Well, I'm fine with that as well. If it's more convenient for folks to comment on it tonight than others,
Because these are all different people than showed up last time.
yeah. Well, that's one of my fears is we start having multiple public hearings and people don't get to hear each other's. We don't get to kind of grow in that conversation and hear what's, everybody else's concerns. But I'm fine either way to make do with the difficult situation.
Well, and, just to piggyback on that, purpose of the public hearing is to create additional information for us that we might not have considered that we need to listen to, but sometimes the rest of the public needs to hear that too. I think it's nice if we can all consult together at the same time, but if that creates a hardship, then I think we ought to hear them tonight, so.
Did you get a second? Because I'll second.
What was the
You
motion?
want to
What are we
vote?
seconding?
The motion was, you made a motion to hold the public hearing.
Yeah, I did.
Okay.
And if the suggesting, however, that if we hear them tonight, we won't be hearing the same people next time.
I would agree with that. We hold the public hearing. If people want to speak to it tonight, they can. If they want to come back, then they've got their,
Well, I don't see why they couldn't speak again.
no, I agree.
Well,
I agree.
that moves us into the two public hearing issues.
Well, the applicant's asking for 2 public hearings. Yeah. Because he wants to table it out. I don't have a problem hearing from the residents twice.
Me too. Yeah, I
Okay.
agree.
All right.
In effect, like ask the question, motion, but in effect, we're just gonna go forward. It's not really a motion.
Right.
You're gonna go forward with
Correct.
the public hearing. However, at the end of it.
We will
what
extend
we
it
want
to,
Continue
Discussion
the public
into-
hearing until the 13th. The applicant can present, and then it's up to you.
okay. So with
With
your,
the contingency
with your second, the
continuation.
motion really is
No, I just want to have a feeling from the council if you're ready to entertain a public hearing.
I am.
Okay.
Yes.
All right, then we'll move forward with the public hearing.
Well, with that said, then, I think it might be wise if I can give my report, because some people may
Yes.
not know because I know a lot of these folks weren't at the Planning Commission's public hearing. So just let them know where staff is and what the Planning Commission recommended from their public hearing. So if I may, Mayor, I'll just present
Absolutely.
that report so the folks that are here can hear that. The applicant is requesting approval to amend a portion of the Stookie Farms PCD project as found specifically in their site plan map, which you see on a portion of it. And we are just talking about Village 11. Just to let everybody know, Village 11 is over the crest of wherever that earthquake shifted the ground, and there's a ridge at that point, and this is on the other side of the ridge, away
how
from
high is
the.
that ridge?
How high? I think it's probably it's
Pretty high.
150 feet. I would probably guess.
Really?
It's pretty, if you've not been down there, again, it's one of those fault things that shifted. It's pretty neat. And there's a couple houses on top. I don't know if I'd want to live on top, but so it's on the other side of the ridge. It's, you know, and on where the ground flattens out again. And it's southeast of the two brand new schools, probably by a half a mile, 3/4 of a mile. So as Stuckey Farm proper, what's already being developed, it is up and over that green, that light green area there. And they're just asking for Village 11 to be changed from low density, from low density in their project plan to a medium high density. So that's what's before you and on the agenda for that. Staff stated in the Planning Commission meeting, I'll state again tonight, is uncomfortable on the proposed change as requested. Request to change Village 11 from low density residential up 2 notches to the medium high density. So it's moving up that density ladder 2 ticks, so to speak. And I just feel that density push right now is a little too fast, especially for the area that's surrounding it being low density property. So basically what that amounts to is maybe a 300 to 400% increase on that particular acreage versus the acreage just to the north. Is general planned low density. Also note that Village 11 will present and made part of the Stuckey Farms PCD, actually, as I stated, sits on the other side of that ridge. And just to point that out. And so it's really going to affect the people on the other side, not so much the people in Stuckey Farms proper. Really probably won't even notice it, but the folks up to the north and to the west will. The increase would greatly affect that area and part of our city due to the fact that developable property around it, again, is low density or very low density as designated in our general plan. That was staff's major concerns. The Planning Commission held a public hearing on September 18th, 2019. And the Planning Commission unanimously recommended denial of Z19-12 for the zone change request, amending a portion, specifically Village 11 of the Stuckey Farms PCD project plan onto you, the City Council. The Planning Commission stated as a reason for denial, which we have them do, that due to this is not harmonious to the surrounding area. Was basically their reason that it's, again, not harmonious to the surrounding property. Staff also feels the density change of Village 11 from low density to medium high density too drastic at the present time. Now, if other properties come in later, north of them, because with Washington Fields Road a little bit to the east and from that commercial, and it feathers in, that at a future date maybe be considerable, but staff and the Planning Commission just feel it's too drastic at this time. So with that, if you have any questions for me or about the Planning Commission meeting, I'll be glad to answer that before you go into your public hearing. And if not, I'll step aside.
Any questions for Drew? All right, now, this is a public hearing. We invite those that want to participate in this public hearing. We invite you to come up. Please state your name. We'd like you to keep it as brief as possible.
Okay, I'll go first.
Mm-hmm.
My name is Bill Freeze, and Stevie, and my son purchased a house in the meadows of Stuckey Farms in the mid-year 2018. Appeared a lovely community with a fantastic future based on master plan. Regarding the plan, when the land was purchased by the developer, he envisioned raising families, grow memories, a place to raise children and grandchildren. And according to him, nothing is more important than grandchildren. I'm paraphrasing from this video that we're talking about showing. He said that is a dream, that is a dream. He dreamed of what is possible and to make it a great place to live, and what does not destroy the feeling that the memory, and not to destroy the feelings and memories of the previous owners. Maintain heritage and pride, progress as an extension of community, be responsive to the unique settings. Think about the environment maintain agriculture heritage, something special for families, parks, small lakes, healthy community lifestyles, family living here, playing together, worshiping together, growing together. His motto he suggested was, Stuckey Farm's a great place to come home to. Today we are here facing the possibility that another village in the master planning community will be rezoned from low density to high, as medium high. As a member of the community, we have met with other residents and we have all concerns about this proposal. I want to share some of what we've learned in the last few months. On Friday, September 20th, about 3 weeks ago, we had a homeowners association meeting where they invited the developer to talk about things that were happening in the community. About 70 people showed up. General temperament was of concern and frustration. The meeting was intended to answer questions regarding recent fee adjustments, progress in the common areas, other concerns people have about the neighborhood. The developer representative was spokesman and was clearly not empowered and did not have any specific answers. There was nothing accomplished. Post-meeting.
Can you repeat the second to last sentence? The developers what?
The developer's representation was a spokesman who clearly was not empowered nor had any specific answers. Okay. Nothing was accomplished. Post-meeting, there were a lot of discussions and people were frustrated about the lack of information, lack of preparation, and a patronizing tone. A follow-up letter of attempting to discuss and answer some of the questions in the meeting was even more condescending. Since then, I've learned that residents are troubled. Many shared their stories about building the dream homes on that vision. The vision is now blurred. Many were concerned that the homeowner is not representative, and we are being beholden to the developer. We are being told what is to occur with our concerns not being vetted or considered. Homeowners association fees are proposed to increase without any changes. Developers said that they were subsidizing what they call the master homeowner association, and they don't want to do it any longer, so they're going to pass the fee on to us. The Master Homeowners Association hidden fees were not disclosed at the time of my purchase, and we're not very happy about that. When or if the pool is ever completed, the fees will be raised to $165 a month. This is a huge burden on a community that has a largely fixed income. People are saddened and frightened by this action. A large percentage are no longer interested in the pool since it represents broken promises and will be overtaken by vacationers. The fees are approaching a point where they will cause decreases in home value. Almost done. Okay, but today's issues are about increasing density in one of the villages. This could lead to apartments. It could lead to vacation villages. Neither one is desirable because the infrastructure really can't support it. So today I ask on behalf of my fellow neighbors who had a previous engagement tonight, many who have a previous engagement at a switch point event and didn't make it, that this petition be denied when it finally comes up. The developers are performing poorly and without consideration of the community's wishes, as can be seen by these constant delays. We have been repeatedly patronized and misled. And we want to maintain the current master plan. In addition, we ask the developer focus on completing what he has been promised to do and to accomplish these in a timely and professional manner. Also, we ask that they show the fine people who have invested in this community respect. Thanks for your time.
Can I ask a couple of quick questions? Mm-hmm. Which neighborhood are you in?
I am in Meadows.
In the Meadows, okay. I guess the thing I'm kind of struggling with or questioning, the cottages that are next to the Meadows, have they been a problem?
Yeah, yes. Well, the cottages, not so much, okay? But they built this house in front of the pool, a huge house, and I was actually going to speak to it.
Well, that's certainly down by the farmhouse barn, yeah, but I'm asking about the cottages.
I'm not talking about the farmhouse. I'm talking the house in front of the farmhouse, which is a vacation home. It is a 9-bedroom, huge home that is intended for vacation rentals. It's been rented twice since it showed on the House Parade of Homes in February. One of the weekends when it was rented, that entire area about the pool was completely flooded with cars. Every parking spot was full. There was about 20 people in the front yard. There were about 20 people in the backyard, and it was all kinds of noise. Basically, it couldn't sustain that one house.
Okay, but follow
Okay.
me for a second.
Yeah,
Do you have a problem with the cottages?
I do not.
Okay, the request from the developer is the same density that the cottages has.
Yes.
So that's why I'm asking if there's a problem with the cottages.
Okay,
how do you
it's
correlate
also,
with
it's
that with
also
Building
the same,
11?
it's also the same density as this big house.
Okay. The
Okay,
other
so-
question I have is,
But this wouldn't be overnight rental, correct? This
that's not
new
what they're
section-
asking for. They're
The
asking.
new
for
section
density.
doesn't have an overnight rental
It-
layover,
it's,
correct?
I'm not aware of any
I didn't read it.
specifics. The specific I know is that they want to go to medium high density.
Right.
And that big house, which is awful, and that community's gonna be awful, falls within that category. And so
Okay.
from my perspective, it's equivalent.
But the cottages
not-
also falls in that category. and
That's
they're not
right.
asking for
That's
any
right.
plat right now.
I'm fine with
and
the
here's my-
cottages.
And here's my third question.
Hmm?
Does it make any difference in your mind that you physically, I mean, you can't see this property, it's on the other side of the
Does
hill.
it make a difference? No, that doesn't make a difference because in my mind, because it is part of the said community, is part of the master plan, and the entire community is going to have to absorb the infrastructure, the traffic, the people, the vacation
Well,
village associated with it.
More density helps distribute those costs across more households.
But the thing is, typically, when you have somebody that is in an apartment type thing or a cottage type thing, they really don't expect $190 to $200 type of association fee. And so it probably won't be very attractive to them. And in addition to that, it puts tremendous pressure on the pool, which we'll be paying for on a monthly fee basis. The people that I've talked to have said they don't even want to be associated with the pool anymore. They don't have anything to do with it because the community is being thrashed into a vacation community and that it won't be family anymore. So basically the vision is abandoned.
May I ask a question?
Sure.
If the density was shifted over and it didn't have a layover of overnight rentals, would that be more favorable to the community?
If it didn't have a,
Well, I'm just saying that there's a fear that it would be that, but if it was a verified thing, that it would not be a vacation rental setup.
that would be more favorable, but still not desirable.
Okay, and I appreciate that.
Yes,
Thank you.
yes. Okay, all set? I have a copy of this if you'd like. And the video, we do have the link to it. And so we're prepared to show it if you're interested, but that's your choice.
Well, so I guess I'm curious, what does the video represent?
The video talks about the vision of the community, okay?
Oh, it was the marketing video?
It was a marketing video, yeah.
That the
And
builder put together?
yeah. And the reason I'm here, I'm new to the community. The reason I'm here is because there just was so much angst in the meeting. There was so much, people were really sad. I have emails I'm getting right now that are people say, my dream is gone, okay? So they said they've invested in community, they saw the vision, they loved it, they adopted it, and now it's not coming through. And not only not coming through from an infrastructure standpoint, it's absolutely not coming through from a timing perspective. Progress is not very good. And promises are made and not kept. And as by delaying this meeting, that's another example of exactly that behavior. And so we feel we do not get respect. We feel like we're we have work to do in the homeowners association. That's my next thing because we're not being representative, but that's not your concern. That's my
Yeah,
concern.
that's tough, of course. But thank you for coming.
Okay, thank you.
Appreciate it.
Do you do the timer? Okay. I'm going to show part of, Stevie Vogel. And guess I don't know how to use my phone.
Where's the gentleman?
Conference room, correct. Okay. Awesome. So how do I get rid of that? Sorry.
Will you turn your phone sideways?
Like so?
Hold it up.
This way?
No. Turn it. Yeah, okay. It didn't help much. Oh, there we go.
Oh, sorry. Okay.
Stability, heritage, pride, and progress as an extension of the community. Located on the southeast side of Washington City, Stookie Farms lies within a historically agricultural valley, providing sweeping views of the surrounding mountains and views. Development at Stookie Farms is intended to be responsive to its unique setting in several ways. Environmental responsiveness is exhibited in the high percentage of open space taking advantage of the terrain and views. Lakes, streams, and trails, including orchard and vineyard groves, are featured amenities which enhance the setting, bringing back references to its agricultural heritage.
I saw how close development is to Washington City and all around is coming to us. So I contacted my brothers and some friends about possibly being involved in the purchase of the property.
You are city, there are some wonderful people in the area in Washington City. We have some wonderful memories. Everybody can tell you about it. You know, within an hour.
I didn't know your brother was
One of the most spectacular things in our city. And living in Stookie Farms development, every day you wake up, and you'll see some beautiful Vermilion cliffs that are sandstone red, or a beautiful mountain snow-capped pine mountain. It will be a wonderful development in addition to Washington City. And we're glad that between the mountains and sitting in this little valley, there's an opportunity to do something special with it, the walking path, for making the family stronger. And so when I first looked at it, I could envision parks, small lakes, many things that would enhance the lives of the people that live here.
Tree-lined streets, beautifully landscaped trail corridors, and parks enhance the lasting legacy this landscape and the views provided. A progressive and comprehensive land planning process results in a variety of planned residential villages, open space trail systems, church site, retail, and business areas. Creating pedestrian-friendly business and retail experiences accessible to the entire community encourages opportunities for successful economic growth and quality services. The Washington Community Center and nearby parks encompass both passive and active recreational opportunities, nurturing a healthy community lifestyle.
There are memories. Almost anything that's built, almost anything that's done because somebody had a dream. That's how I feel about this property. I have a dream. As you can see, we're a long ways away from having that
That's good
happen
enough,
right
right?
now. But like I said,
That's good enough now.
I know that it won't be very many years for there will be many families living together, playing together, worshiping together, just growing strong together, growing.
There we go.
Can you send me the link to that? I gotta get the video on there.
No, I think.
Well, I thought it was his brother for sure.
No
My
problem.
goodness.
Sorry, Mayor, but there's a lot of stuff going out. Once you get on video, then
can't take
it's
it.
Just
gonna,
a little
it
bit
doesn't
of
go
criticism
away.
there, though. I think you could have been a little more Vanna White and kind
Yeah,
of
I
pointed a
should've.
little bit, or, a
Yeah,
little.
I thought that afterwards.
Did you?
Yeah.
Okay.
You've come a long ways. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else want to come on up? Come on up.
My name's Heidi Blair. I live in the homesteads of Stookie Farms, which I love. I love living there. We've been there since 2014. But since you watched that video, I'd like you to think about the video you just saw and the dream that Carl has, and then think about I happen to be against the higher density because I'm thinking of the the families that live out there, the 2 schools that have gone in, and I'm thinking of too fast a growth without the infrastructure to handle it. So that's my point I'd like is, I watched that video and that's what I'm thinking about. It's too crowded. The traffic is increasing. We have a lot of people moving in. I'm not for all of this high density stuff that the planning commission's passing off on. There's a place for it, and there's places not for it. So thank you.
Thank you. Any questions for her? Anybody else? Why not?
It's been a while since I've been here. I've been gone for a couple of years. My name is Jim Lillywhite, Stuckey Farms Meadows. I wasn't planning on saying anything tonight, but I feel like we've been let down. We were one of the first ones to move in, probably number 13, back in 2013, January 2013. And we were, at the time, not paying any fees whatsoever for the homeowners. And we moved from Sunbrook, where we were paying $145 a month, and with no fee, or perhaps going to $40 a month at the maximum. We thought, this is for us. We're retired. We are on fixed income. We can't afford another $100 a month. You know, then in a couple of years we were asked to pay $40 for the fee, and then it went up to $80, where Carl said that was supposed to cover the park. Well, apparently it doesn't cover the park, so now we have to pay for the park again. And so now the fee is going up to $125, and then it's going to go up to $165, which is $10 more a month than Sunbrook. So here we are, full, you know, coming full, it's full circle, thank you. Full circle. And we can't afford it, and we can't move out because we have a reverse mortgage on our home, and there's no way we can sell our home and move into another home and pay 2 real estate fees and be at a 50% level where we'd have to be to get a reverse mortgage. We're stuck, and many people are stuck, and most people are 55 and older in the community. You know, I've been let down several times with the cottages. I knew nothing about the little cottages when we first moved in. I know our neighbors who live in the development just behind us don't want the cottages, and there's no way a road can ever come in there unless Carl gets his cottages next to that development. So they're at a stalemate. Speaking of stalemates, the park is, it's a problem. The city has been trying to work with Carl since 2011, I think, to try to get the park into the city. It would be nice to have the park in the city. I, for one, would like to see that. Many others would, and some wouldn't. But I don't see the difference. We had people playing pickleball over there today, and they're from Treasure Valley. And are you going to go over there and say, you guys can't play in this park because it's our park? And here we are paying another $45 a month for that park, which all our neighbors can use, and I don't see any reason why we shouldn't allow them to use it. And Carl has refused to put a structure that meets the city requirements for the pavilion. He's refused to put in a restroom. He would rather have the Boy Scouts or whoever come there and meet there and pee on the grass while everybody's watching from their back windows. We need to have a restroom, and we need to have a block wall on the back of the park. That should not have to be paid by the residents, and I'm being told that we're going to have to pay for it if we want it. And that's ridiculous. And I appreciate everything Carl's done. We have a beautiful park. We have a beautiful area. We have a nice bike trail. But if we could work with the city and with the park and work with Carl and get something done on the park, we would have $45 less a month that we'd have to pay if the park took that park. And they need a park in that area. There's no parks within I mean, 2 years ago when I was before this group, I said, here's the parks in Washington, and they're all up on this end by I-15, and you have 5 more going in, and they're all still up here by I-15, and there's nothing out there by us.
Jim, we just put one down the fields.
You did what?
We just dedicated one down the fields. So,
In the fields?
yeah. in the
So you
fields.
have one.
Shooting
Wonderful.
star. Yeah, one. We got one.
We have 3 in the
Treasure
field.
Valley, Pine View, and Shooting Star now.
Okay, would you like to have another one in Stuckey Farms
Yeah.
or not? Would you?
The issue, as I understand it, is it was never built to city spec, so we can't really take it in as inventory, and there's challenges to get it there.
Well, it's close enough to city specs that I think we're within reason. We can, with a little bit of discussion, we can get it to city specs.
We kind of, just to play the devil's advocate, I really don't intend to argue with you, but we have the same issue a lot of times with private streets. People want private streets until they realize they have to maintain the private streets. Then they want the city to step in, but they were never built to city spec, so we can't even take them into inventory. And it's a challenge on, you guys have plenty of private streets down in Stuckey Farms that are going to have to be maintained. So.
No, and I appreciate that. The city will maintain those. We don't have to. I come from a development up in Sandy, Pepperwood, where all the streets were private and it's a gated community. And they put a reserve in there for all the streets to be repaved, and they've done it several times.
Can we talk about Area 11 just a little bit? I recognize that there are a lot of issues that I'm hearing are not relevant perhaps to the purpose of this hearing, which is Area 11. Okay. And so as we look at that, maybe it's just one more among others, and the others need to be aired before we get to the one more. But is the intent with Area Village 11 that those people would use the same amenities that the rest of you are using? Would the roads take you through the current parts of the Stuckey Farm villages? Do you have some information about that specific to Village 11?
Yeah, I feel like we were kind of undercut by putting in those little cottages in the first place. We didn't know about them when we first moved in 2013. They're very small. I was surprised there wasn't more of an concern about that than there was. I'm concerned about the 6 renters who live around me now because the owners have moved out. I'm concerned about renters because when the renters come on a daily basis, they'll be utilizing the pool and the resort on a daily basis. For the rest of us, 55 and older, we might go to the pool maybe 4 or 5 times a year, and we're paying $145 a month. Now, is that fair?
Well, all due
To
respect, if
overload,
somebody's
with
renting a
overload the-
house, then they're also paying those dues.
They're paying the dues, but they're coming every day with more kids, and they want to use it every day when they're renting, as opposed to having people living there all the time, full time. If you're living someplace full time, you won't be using that every single day, will you?
Well,
Especially if you're retired.
overnight rentals or renters. I mean, there's a different classification of it, but you have the right to use it every single day.
But would we?
Well, I don't know. That's up to you.
No, we wouldn't. But I can guarantee you that if people come down here and rent with the idea that it's a vacation rental, they're going to be using it.
Well,
They're
Tim,
not-
don't you
they're
think?
not
you.
requesting vacation rental on Village 11.
And we're not conceding it.
If I may ask Tim real quick to our staff, this area, the density is proposed as what exactly?
7 to 12.
7 to 12, similar to match everything within the cottages, or?
It's the same as Village 12, 13, 6, 4, 6 and 4. So
Okay, and it's not stated as these will be rentals. This is simply a request for density to build homes equal to that. Okay,
Well,
Well,
it-
multifamily, more likely it'll be townhomes, apartments, one of the two. I would imagine. They're going for the density. That's the only way you can get that density is through townhomes.
they haven't designed it yet. They're not going to design it unless they know what the density is that they can design to. So this is the first step in that.
yes, and just clarifying on some things.
Yeah, I'm just going on the fact that you said it's similar to the cottages. So if it's similar to the
Well-
cottages,
That's the
And-
request. The density that they're requesting is the exact same density that the cottages has.
and isn't that what we're talking about?
Yeah.
Well, that's
and-
why I brought it up before. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
what we're talking about at Village 11. Do we approve the density that the cottages currently has?
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying. With that density and with people moving in on a daily basis, it's going to overburden the pieces of property that we feel that we're paying $145 to $165 a month. We're paying more than Sunbrook is for a lot less.
Well, Tim, is there anything else you'd like to speak specifically to Village 11? I think we've heard a lot of your peripheral concerns as well.
Yeah, I guess that's it. Just, I'm concerned about the overuse of the area.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jim. Any questions, additional questions? Anybody else? All right, if not, I'll entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to close the public hearing.
Ward, aye.
Clough, aye.
Granger, aye.
Bellis, 9.
Okay, we'll have another one in 4 weeks.
Oh, it's not closed. It is
Oh, we're
extended.
Continuing, yeah.
It is to be
Oh,
continued.
You can close it for
on-
tonight, but let them know you'll open one up because the item's being tabled. We'll just,
Do we need to make an amendment
and continue,
But
yeah, table the
within
item
my
and continue the public hearing.
within it to make a motion for a continuance 4 weeks from now?
Second.
Clough, aye.
Granger, aye.
Bellis, 9.
Thank you for the clarification. Okay, we'll move on. Item 8, ordinances. Consideration to approve an ordinance adopting zone change request Z-19-09, request from PUD Plan Unit Development to PUDR Plan Unit Development Residential Multifamily, located on the northwest corner of 100 West and 100 South. Applicant Curtis Anderson.
Thank you, Mayor. Of course, we've had our 2-week holdover. That 2-week period is now completed. The item is ready for city council action. Just to remind you, the Planning Commission reviewed this request at their August 21st, 2019 meeting. The Planning Commission unanimously recommended denial of Z-19-09 for the zone change request from Plan Unit Development to the proposed Plan Unit Development Residential, requesting the multifamily residential development standards onto you, the city council. The reason that the Planning Commission gave was, quote, based on the concern it does not meet the neighborhood zone to the northeast, close quote. And so again, it comes to you with a recommendation of denial. Staff recommended approval, Planning Commission recommended denial. I'll glad to answer any questions you might have had over your 2 weeks that I could help you with.
No, I appreciate the 2-week holdover. It was good to go and talk to citizens and also to go and walk in the place and better see if I could understand its concepts and how it would be complementary to the community. I still feel to bring before the council the concern of there is significant traffic in that area as it is. And I feel that that particular area, how it's being proposed, it just doesn't really fit with the form and the nature of that community. I'm leaning more towards discussing something other one that's being proposed. I'm not opposed to development, but one of my concerns is just simply, even within the PUD that's been executed, it just feels so out of place with the original format and layout of the PUD that was built in place. If it seemed more complementary, more a part of, or even feathered into, I would be much more in favor of it, but it just feels so out of place as it's been proposed from my point of view.
One of the emails that I got indicates that the 3 units have more parking and open space than the original PD had, and that they can provide additional parking by widening the driveway. We believe the original PD plan, they state, as approved, are met with our proposal. Our 3 units they're suggesting are not consistent with, they've been told they're not consistent with the 3 units, but they're failed to see that since they appear to be as large as the other PD units. And the open space is a greater percentage of the parcel and gives the occupant more usable open space. Okay, so those are some of the issues that have been raised.
Drew, will you go back to that?
Yeah. My concern with that, Councilman Granger, is greater than is a unique phrase in this particular PD. It may be greater than, but it is still lacking, in my opinion. If you've gone through and walked through that existing PD, you have a harder time just even getting a person to halfway park on the existing paths that they have. Likewise, more open space is really a unique phrase in this, because if you see what's proposed in there, it doesn't give any significant advantage to the open space that's in the existing PD. They're both severely lacking in my feeling, and that's my
If you
concern.
look at the size of that lot, you essentially have 3 units directly west of it
Correct.
that would fit on that lot. And I can't tell on the east or the west side, it looks like they've all got 4 units of parking. So 2-car garage and then 2 cars out front. We're talking about 6 cars for 3. But if it's a traffic issue, there's 6 cars that are being requested. If it's a 2-person house, 2 drivers per household type of thing.
Well, that is one of the things that was brought up in the planning commission, is that the parking in front. So you basically have 2 parking stalls in front of the garage. You have a 1.5 space in the garage. So you do have to move cars around to get the 3 parking spaces, but you could get 3 parking spaces in a motorcycle. So in that way, it is an improvement to some of the difficulties they're having around the corner. The traffic issue, but I think the on-street parking will help the traffic issue significantly. I guess my problem with it is that as a PUD, I've gotten used to expecting more effort from the planning and designing. It feels like they just dropped one building in and then altered another sufficiently to cram it in behind. I personally would like to see a little more effort into making that a little more contiguous to the local property. It is a little bit of a difficult spot in the area there. There's commercial just slightly up above it. There's a single residence north of it. There's duplexes behind it.
Is it that far different from the ones that are to the west?
I think so.
Well, it's just to me it just strikes me that we would try pretty hard, but that's my impression of it.
Well, certainly we're struggling with issues of housing. Hey, look, really what we're talking about is it a duplex there or a duplex and a single family detached? Right. If we're doing an ordinance right now that allows people to do a secondary accessory dwelling to their existing home, the existing residence, I don't see that as much different than this.
Well, this wouldn't meet your accessory dwelling ordinance at all. I'm thinking apples and oranges here.
If that's the thing, if we went down that lane, Councilman, I thought about that as well. Is that our vision of what an accessory dwelling would look on a piece of property with that much open space and connection? I think we have some very limited sizes
It
within
could,
the
based on the
stamp.
ordinance that we're talking about, it certainly could.
Because we have we're talking about certain acreages and sizes and densities, and this one really, really does not, I hope that's not what we're looking for, to have a home that much included within the lot. If I was thinking if that was a home with an accessory dwelling, it would look completely against the idea of where we'd be going. I'm not against accessory dwellings, but I'm just saying that would not be what I hope our end product would look like throughout the city.
No, this doesn't fit. This doesn't fit our accessory dwelling ordinance at all.
My feeling on this is I appreciate how the planning commission has reviewed this, and they have brought up the concept that based on their concern that it doesn't meet the neighborhood zone to the northeast. I appreciate the petitioning. I appreciate going out and talking with the citizens and walking on the property. I make the motion that we deny an ordinance adopting zone change request C-19-09, request from PUD plan unit development to a PUDR plan unit development. Residential multifamily located at the northwest corner of 100 West and 100 South.
Well, I will second your motion, just so we can bring it to vote, but I would follow up with this. I spent the first 7 years of my marriage living in an apartment. That's where I raised my kids. I then My first house was 1,130 square feet. This screwy extra home that will be a brand new home is 1,160 square feet. And I'll tell you, when I was 24, 25 years old, I sure appreciated that 1,130 square foot house that I had an opportunity to buy. So we do need to have things in our community that address that need. I won't be voting for denial. So.
Well, so appreciate your point there. I do think though, if we're going to deny it, we need to give the applicant a reason and steer them towards something there. So.
Okay, so we do have a motion and a second. We can
Well-
go with the vote and then.
Well, I'd like to continue the conversation.
Okay. All right.
I'd like to at least suggest to the councilman who made the motion to maybe add on a reason for it, just so that if it passes, we actually give some valuable information to the developer.
Well, I matched what the information was given by the planning commission in my motion, that based on the
Okay.
concern, it doesn't meet the neighborhood zone to the northeast. That was within my motion.
And I guess I'm kind of in the mind of agreeing with the motion. I just think we could design something a little bit better there. I do think it actually is an improvement over what is directly to the west of it, especially in parking. And I think parking is a part of our biggest traffic area for the area. I mean, one more resident isn't going to change the traffic flow of that area to the point, but
Well, I think,
4 more cars out front would.
I think if you look at it, it's an improvement to what's to the west and to the north. I take that back. The north's a single family, but I meant the commercial that's across the street and to the north.
Yeah, it is a difficult spot because there is commercial there. There's a lot of single family homes, but you're right on that verge of commercial off of Telegraph, and there's some struggles there. So I could probably vote for it with just a little more effort in the design. So.
Well, the motion is to deny. Do you want to start the vote, or you want me to start?
Well, I was kind of looking at the mayor to see if he was ready to.
I'm ready to move on if you're ready. Councilman Ward, why don't you start it off?
Ward, aye.
Clefany, wait, I'm for denial, so aye.
Motions for denial,
Yes.
and we have 2 ayes for that.
Mhm.
Correct.
I understand the arguments. I don't find the design for the property to be an enhancement to the neighborhood, even though it may be equal to the neighborhood. I think the opportunity is there to do something more attractive. I'd like to see another plan come in, so I'm voting aye.
Aye on the denial.
Nay.
Okay, so it denies 3-1. Okay, thank you. Item B, consideration to approve an ordinance adopting zone change request D-19-10. Request from PUD Plan Unit Development to a revised PUDR Plan Unit Development Residential Multifamily located approximately 100 South Bella Vista Drive. Applicant Stephen Howcroft.
Thank you, Mayor. Again, this is an item and it's 2-week holdover, which is now complete. The item's ready for City Council action. Again, to remind you of the Planning Commission's public hearing, which was held on August 21st, 2019. The Planning Commission unanimously recommended approval of Z-19-10 for this zone change / amendment request for this particular planned unit development residential. Again, to remind you, they changed the name. You can see if you open up, hopefully you got the new exhibits. Came out Monday with kind of an updated, a lot of concern with the folks was too bright or too much white stucco, etc. So they wanted to throw this, and also Councilman Turek asked he'd like to see what it might look like from the backside on Bella Vista Road. So those are at the end. And again, so we're looking at the name change of Desert Flower. And also now you can accept the original elevations. They just changed the shades on these to more of gray slated instead of white stucco. I actually think it was an enhancement to the buildings if you look at them, one after the other type thing. So this is the darker shades. It's still the modern.
You're saying you like this version better.
I can see where this is a little bit more appealing. It's not as, boom, I guess is the term.
They
Best one I could.
softened the colors, and they did. It's not all just grays. They did go to some tan.
They did go to some tans and stuff, and so they changed that up to where it's not so it's a little bit softer in that respect. This is probably the brightest, but it's still a gray, a light gray shade up on top versus a white. And they got rid of the, they had those square box lines from the original. So this actually brings it a little bit more toward a Tuscan style versus the modern.
What
even though
square
it's a
box
mix.
lines did we get rid of?
Well, I'll show you. Just if you look at those originals, I'll just bring it up real quick so you can see. See how they had these lines up top they just make these lines in the stucco to box it out.
The stucco cuts,
Yeah.
cuts, but they were gonna put in.
Right, and now
breaks.
they've smoothed it out, which takes a little bit of that modern pop that the folks were worried about. I think that were at your public hearing, took a little bit of that edge of that sharp modern and gave it more of a softer modern, I guess is the best way. It's, but that's the difference right there. You can see between the two.
So still a hardy board. Then the one you just went to above that can you slide back up? That would be a hardy board up on the top. Well, it'd be on the right and up on the top.
Yeah, you have it down on the living room and then that bedroom up top. It's also on the one we were just looking at. It's up here.
Yeah,
So
I see that.
it's that same horizontal. And I think, again, that was approved last time and you could hang to make sure that horizontal siding is a hardy board on there. And again, I think it really softened it up, especially for the comments that were made in your public hearing. Appreciate what they did and brought this back. Again, you probably have this one and the 2-story that are the one that really have the harsh modern lines to them, but still not as loud, I think, as the ones you saw 2 weeks ago. And then this will be the final one. This almost fits into a Tuscan anyway, when it gets down to it. So
I do think that the color change will help them. I mean, just long-term maintenance, the white just gets so filled with that.
the white would end up looking like this in about 7 years.
Yeah,
So
but it never really looks like that.
Might as well
It
start it
always
out
looks
this
a little
way.
dirty,
Yeah.
and it just the stucco is so hard to clean.
yeah. So these are updated elevations. I appreciate it. And then it was asked about, as people are driving down Bella Vista Drive, again, these particular units they're talking about are between Bella Vista Drive and Horizons West. So they are the back sides that you will see. So we just asked them maybe put up, because there is going to be a block wall in between the landscape strip. And so this would a 2-story look like as you're walking down the street or driving. And then even more so, I appreciate them doing the single story. And again, that's going to be by whoever buys, they'll come in and say, I want it. It'll probably be by order, what will end up being there. So now the internal ones, again, there is the limit next to Horizons West. The ones that back up are all going to carry the single story limitation with them. So you'll still have that island of homes that are back to back in the middle. That could be 2-story or 1-story. But this was just to give, and unfortunately, Councilman Turek, who's not here, is the one who kind of wanted to see that, but
I think I requested it too.
did you? Well, there we go then.
I had
So it wasn't a
on my
whole
notes
waste.
as well to bring up today.
So I hope that helps you.
Yeah, I'm just looking at the one just above that. So they're proposing having mostly stucco with, I guess it looks like what is the textured portion there? 'Cause
That's a roof.
There's not, I see.
It's a roof coming off
So
of
it really
it.
is just all stucco on the side and rear.
Yeah, but you get breakup. It's not just a flat wall. They are having probably some porch
Looks like a
decks.
patio right there.
And this is a patio area coming off the back.
Well, I don't think all of them would have that. There's quite
It may
a few
not.
that would be just a stucco sided. But if you've got the block wall there, you're only going to see the top portion. I'm trying to thumb through and find the other 2-story. Well, there would be kind of a lot of stucco on that.
Well, I will say I like this set of elevations better than the last set that was presented.
I
That has the
I appreciate the changes. I went out and toured some homes out in Little Valley that had some similar concepts to see what it would be like built. And I was actually surprised on how the product came off. I think this is even better than what I anticipated in the revisions. And so I know at paper, a lot of this, it may look a little bit out, but I feel like they've made some good moves to bring it back more into the concerns that were addressed. And I think it looks a lot better. So.
I've seen the initial design they showed us several places lately. And I just got back from Moab, and they're all over there. And even the hotel going in Green Springs is in that same kind of blocky kind of design. I don't prefer it either, but I think this crosses into something more acceptable than the blockiness that I've been seeing lately. As I've noticed that design and looking for it, I think there's a lot of it starting to go in a lot of places, but I think this is probably a good compromise.
Yeah, I'm seeing a few heads nod in the audience for agreement. If anybody wants to shake it right and left to disagree, they can do that too.
With that, Mayor, I'll make a motion that we approve an ordinance adopting zone change request Z-19-10, a request from PUD Planned Unit Development to a revised PUDR Planned Unit Development, residential multifamily located approximately 100 South and Bella Vista Drive.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Councilwoman Granger, you start this one.
Aye.
Bellis and I.
Great.
Ward, aye.
Clef eye.
Thank you.
And just to let the council know, the conditions are the original conditions from that PUD that had this. I just copied them straight over, so they still have all those apply from that original approval. So,
All right, thank you. Item C, consideration to approve an ordinance adopting zone change request Z-19-11, request from PUD Plan Unit Development to PUDR Plan Unit Development Residential Multifamily located approximately 100 South Bella Vista Drive. Same applicant, Mr. Holcroft.
thank you, Mayor, and I'll just kind of pull this down to the major site plan. Also with this, as the previous two, the 2-week holdover period is completed. The item is ready for city council action. Again, to remind you, the Planning Commission held their public hearing. The Planning Commission unanimously recommended approval of Z-1911 for this zone change from PUD, Plan Unit Development, to a proposed Plan Unit Development residential, taking the multifamily residential development standards onto this project. And again, they passed it unanimously. And I'll be glad to answer some questions. I know that while we were gone, there were some questions about the percentages, et cetera, as it relates to the code. If I could just have most of you will just go refer to this page here, which was in your, I went through and did what I could on my measurements. Again, can't get specifically right down to the nth inch, but the total acreage, of course, for this particular is the 15.7. The open space I came in with.
While you're doing that, can I ask Mike a question?
Yeah.
Do you know what the roadway width is of Bella Vista Drive?
60? Or I'm not positive, 60 or 66, I don't.
Well, I could probably pull it up quicker than that.
Hey, now.
It's not a-
but I'm pretty sure it's a 60 footer.
So what does that allow for? 60 footer right of way, not necessarily asphalt, right?
Right. Correct.
So what does that allow for in width?
In asphalt width?
Is it,
Or
is it
lanes?
3 lanes with parking
Three
lanes on the
lanes.
signs?
3 lanes with parking.
So
We wouldn't stripe it probably 3 lanes unless we actually needed some left-hand turning movement lanes down by the intersection, we would.
you
And
just,
as that develops
you
down
just
there-
drive it, you just stripe it as 2 lanes?
As a
with the-
2-lane road,
with
yeah.
the-
Yeah, there's not enough traffic in that to probably go to a 5-lane.
So sorry, just to be clear, you're going to stripe it as 3 lanes, and then at the intersection, you would make maybe a center turn lane, a left-hand turn lane.
We would probably stripe it as a 2-lane road with parking, and then at the intersection, it would have a center turn lane for left-hand turning movements.
Okay.
Drew, we were excited about your math demonstration here.
Yeah, my little posting, I mean, I have it in my head because working on it the last 2 days. So the open space I came up with was actually 5.6 acres, just 1/10 under. But the 41% was in relationship to the 13.9. I wanted to be very realistic on this, so I used the 15.7. So the open space is 35%, and that's the landscaped area that you see on the, on your thing, all that green, even though it's all not going to be green, but it's dedicated landscape area. So it's 35% of this project was, dedicated landscaped area. The floor area, I came up with 2.7, but it still came into the 15.7 at 18%. So that means the footprint of the buildings is only taking up 18% of the land mass on those footprints. So I went in and calculated the RV storage, the parking for all the units, and the road, the internal road and external road. And I came up with 7.37 acres in all that. That's including the part of Bonnie Lane that has to be put in, the little bit on Bella Vista Drive that has to be put in, all the internal roads, the RV parking area. I came up with a total of 7.37 acres. And so when I added all those 3 up, it came to the 15.7. And so in relationship, I had basically there's 35% was open space, 18% was the floor area, and then it was 40-something% that made up for the 100%. It's all really close to what you see right here. So these are relative, good numbers to have. Now, getting back also to explain to the council like we did in the public hearing, PUDs, they start off with, our base for anybody to do a PUD, you cannot have more than 50% building coverage area versus 50% non-building areas, in essence, what it is. So as you can see, they're only using 18% is building. The other 82% is either in landscape, parking, driveways, etc. So the buildings are only taking basically 20%, out of the whole project is the buildings. Now they are going to be 2- and 3-story and proposed 4-story. That does come into account, but again, the buildings are there. Now, there was a question about having 50% landscape open space. That's not what really the code is. I think I do have a bit of a problem in my code, but I also know that you have to have, out of that 50% non-building, you have to have a hard 20% hard landscaped area as part of that 50%. This one has 35% over the whole project, not just 20% of the 50% open. So I think they've met that above and beyond that. The other question was about the amenity area. Just to let you know, they were required to have 39,200 square feet. They are proposing with all the amenity areas throughout the project that you see throughout. Let's just hit some of those that you see everywhere, all these little amenity areas throughout the project. Went up and added, they have several play areas, and of course they have the main big gathering area in the center of the project. 54,600 square feet. So they have in excess over 15,000 square feet in recreation amenity area for this project.
At what point in the project would the amenities go in? We've had problems in the past of, well, when you get 100% built out, then the amenity goes in or whatever. And so what are the rules regarding this project?
We don't really have any. Our planning commission's been pretty good when they've had people come in that have subdivisions. They've been putting down basically 30%, when they hit 30% or 33% of, dwelling units completed, they have to have X amount of amenity done. So if the council's amenable to passing this, I don't think it's out of line to add a condition, what you feel you'd like to see. Again, a lot of them, and I'll tell you right now with the project going on at Telegraph and Washington Parkway, that apartment complex where they dug out all that area that's going up. You can see they're starting on the 4th story on that one. I also noticed that behind it, they've started their clubhouse area. The reason a lot of them like to do that, they get that clubhouse done because guess where they bring their clients in to show them what they have. They like to have that clubhouse because it sells the product. Now, I don't know if they'll do it, but you could put a condition saying and give them a percentage at that time, because this one won't come before you on a subdivision because they're all rentals.
So Drew, go ahead.
Just follow up then, the builders are here, right?
Yeah, and you could ask them what they want to do.
What's your plan regarding the amenities?
But come up.
Steve Howcroft, Sunwood Homes. As we did the project at Traverse Mountain, we did the Seasons there, which is a 440 unit apartment complex. There, because of the financing base we had the funds necessary to go in and do all of the amenities first. We'll try to do the same thing here. We're not to the point where we're putting together the financing, but a lot of the same partners that we used at Traverse Mountain we'll probably use on this project. So our intent is to do it as soon as possible. As Drew indicated, that's always a big advantage to renting the units, is to have those amenities first.
So it wouldn't matter what restriction we put on you, you're probably going to exceed that.
We'll do whatever we can as far as the financing. Like I say, we don't have the financing in place, but it is our intent to try to do most of that first.
Okay, thank you.
So I guess with the application, I got just a technical concern. There is some difference in the amenities portion of the 3D version of it and the site plan version of it. You go back to the site.
Because the pool's different. Yeah, this pool looks like the one you want to have.
No, not the pool, though. All the different areas that are marked out. This is just shown as green space. The other ones are actually shown. Here is a gathering area.
And I'll tell you what happened with that probably is that when this was at the planning commission, they didn't have all the other ones on here. They just said that they would have more of them throughout the project. The planning commissioners tabled the item, said we'd like to see those on the site plan. So they only had a 2-week period to get those superimposed on this one.
So when it comes down to if a motion gets made, I just want to identify that which site plan we're actually.
Yeah, you could call out the site plan on page 3. Those are the amenities, not the other, not the items, beyond that. So page 3 and
3 and 4 are the same. The only difference is
or the upstairs apartments.
I have concerns about the quality of life that we put people into that come to Washington City to live. Now I like the plan that they've put together to make this livable and enjoyable. But quite frankly, at this point in time, I'm not going to approve any 4 stories without an elevator. And I'm not even sure I'd approve it with an elevator, but I'm certainly not going to approve that with without an elevator and have people hauling their couches and stuff up narrow stairways I'm just not. Okay, so there are some issues with the numbers. What density has been approved in the past versus this density, but if we take off those penthouses on the 4th floor, we're within 3. We're within 3. So I want to state that because I feel strongly about it. The quality of life for these people is as important to me as someone that is building a 10,000 square foot home. I care that they can live there and live there in some decent comfort. So
I appreciate it. I'm just a little sad because I thought that would be really cool looking to see those up there. But
it'd be fun if you
I
had the
appreciate what you,
penthouse,
yeah.
but the rest of it,
Yeah, as soon as I take that first
Well, it really does.
dresser up there,
It
then
does
all of a
help
sudden.
the look of the building, because essentially what we're dealing with is a square building. And from a design standpoint, they've tried to break that up but they've really tried to break it up by just putting more squares on the square.
Right.
So I
wouldn't even care if they took some of the third floor away and put penthouses on that floor, but not a floor.
No, I appreciate you bringing it up because that's one of the questions about the density, just to let the council know and some of the folks here. I went back and pulled the original one that was denied back in 17. The proposal was 300, I think, and 40, 345. All this, we're talking all the previous approvals that you've given. This is the last area, bringing them all together, 351. So we're talking, even though we've broken the applicant has broken it up, we're talking a difference of 6 to 8 different units. And if you take these 8 off, if that doesn't come through, then you're right where you were.
One of the things that I have on this that I think is really important is I remember when this was proposed as trailer park. There's been so many things been proposed here. And I would like to first compliment the concept of this design. This feels like a community that could really work. It's hit all the main things that I'm concerned about, open space and working. I am a little concerned about the density. My overall concern that really reaches in this, if something like this is to be executed, I have a hard time imagining where 30 units would begin on this. And so there's nothing more important to me than considering the traffic concerns of this area. I think it needs to be secure, the alignment in 1100 East, that we know that it is in place. Because otherwise, I don't feel like this is a responsible development to execute. I know that it is in progress of being discussed, but last I heard it was not attained and not verified of its capacity. And that's my biggest thing, is the safety and overall community flow within this is where I'm most concerned as a councilman.
I will just, to touch on what you were talking about there, is that condition number 12 is that the southern extension of 1100 East will need to be constructed or already in place as part of this development. Yeah, that's one of the conditions on this that we put. Also, I just noticed, to answer the amenity question, we did put something in there. Condition number 9, the proposed amenities will be completed before 1/3 build out of the development is completed, roughly on the 38th unit. So we did cover that already. I thought we had. So that helps answer that particular question for you as well.
The overall PUD.
On this particular portion.
So,
but I'm glad you brought that up. I did a little fun thing right before our meeting started, because this area and then those 40 units that are due east are all given the medium high density category. When I take those units and add them to these units in the acreage, it's dead on. They're not over and they're not under when you tie the medium high density areas together, even though that's a separate approval. But when you bring them together, because we're looking at in some ways an overall approval, because of the acreage, they're right on. They're actually under the density of the 12 dwelling units per acre by 0.8 of one dwelling unit.
12 dwelling units per acre?
On medium high density.
For just this one section, if you just look at the section itself?
No, this section, I told you, they're at 13.8. But when we bring in the other medium high density portion on the west side of Bella Vista Drive, which is all medium high density, and you throw the two together on the acreage, the dwelling units, you come up with being under by one dwelling unit.
And is that because they've got the RV parking in there?
Because the density
You're gaining some on that. You're gaining some on the density next door because
and it's because they went up. And again, they could have taken the RV part and only had 2-story, but there'd be more buildings. And they're trying to do less buildings because of the soil issues as well. We know that, and I don't blame them. That's an engineering way to take care of soil problems. You condense them more into one and go up instead of spreading a whole bunch of them out.
Do you want to talk about the street that has to be in with the 30 units and why it doesn't include the other portion of 30 units?
Because you had an approval given on those, and that's what the approval, basically that motion let everything on the west side, those 40-something units, not be associated with the second access. They're going to let
Because
that be.
they had the two egress exits.
They're
Okay.
on Bella Vista Drive, and they have 2 points coming out of it, and they're not any different than any other surrounding, like the Bella Vista folks are using Bella
Do you
Vista as
have
that.
the overall plan layout so we can point specifically about which sections we're talking about?
I can bring them. I brought all the copies of the previous ones, and we can try to show it on Elmo if you want. I can do that. That'll just help you if that's what you'd like to do.
It's been a point that I had on my notes to check. I know it's not going to show up well on Elmo, but.
While he's doing that, I got a quick question for James, if you don't mind. On Bonnie Lane, you got the bulb outs, and then it cuts back for on-street parking.
Right.
It looks like you're doing the same thing on Bella Vista Drive.
That's correct.
So you're providing additional right-of-way to Bella Vista Drive over there for parking.
We're more slowing it down. There will be parking there regardless if those bulbs are there or not.
Well, I know. I mean, that's kind of.
What
You're doing
right
that
now?
on Bonnie Lane, but
We
it
are.
shows to bulb out on Bella Vista. I didn't know.
On
if
that
was
intersection,
provided
yes.
additional parking or additional right of way that would be cars, or if it's just a normal street.
Right, I mean, it's only in that intersection that we're bulbing it out, at the intersection of Bonnie Lane and Bella Vista Drive. But what we're trying to do is slow it down. Right now, it is a 60-foot right-of-way with, and so it's a very wide street. So it's easy.
I understand. Here's the reason why I'm asking. I get the desire of some to turn the townhomes inward, right? And so you don't have, so that you have everything contained within the project. I think for me aesthetically, it looks better to have them the way they are with the rear loaded.
And that
garage.
was at the request of the residents not wanting any driveways coming off of Bella Vista Drive.
I remember when we went through.
Yep, I understand that. I know what's going to happen is you're going to have people parking on Bella Vista Drive because they park on Washington Parkway and they hop a wall to get to their home or their townhome because they don't want to park on the inside.
I agree,
So we're going to
except
have
for
it
when you
either way.
compare the amount of parking, I know which development you're talking about. Right when you turn on Washington Parkway on the right
Just
side,
north of Ovation, they're parking on the street.
this has
right there, yeah.
so much more parking.
Well,
than
this does
that.
have a lot more parking.
It does.
Um,
That place is actually, good luck
But
finding
even
a
when you have
parking
cars on
spot.
Washington Parkway, you go inside that project, there's vacant stalls. Right?
I've seen cars in that. The reason I know this is I've worked in that development quite a bit. Cars are usually parked on the empty lots in that subdivision because there is no parking. So I think they're parking there out of necessity.
Well, I don't know that there's any empty lots left.
Right,
Last
now
time I went
there isn't probably now. But you're right, that's comparing us to that's almost like comparing us to that development up by the freeway of Salisbury's. The comparison in parking and streets escape in our subdivision that we're proposing versus either one of those aren't even close.
I'm not arguing with you there.
Yeah. I mean, we did this actually as per your comment. And I understand that those bulb outs can provide parking, but that street is going to be that wide, whether those bulb out or not. The only thing that's going to provide is a narrow point to hopefully slow somebody down.
Well,
If they're gonna
again,
park
you have
there,
it,
they're
you have
gonna
it down
park there
Bonnie
anyway.
Lane, but you don't have, you just got the one bulb out on the south end of
Right there.
Bella Vista right there.
I actually wonder if it might be good to bulb it out in a couple more spots.
I'm
Slow the
not
place
disagreeing
down
with you.
and add some character to the area. Because it's a freeway going to a private subdivision. It's a wide road. It doesn't need to be that wide.
Green Springs argument.
It's cheaper for us to leave it asphalt.
Right.
I mean, we could just leave it the way it is. It doesn't look aesthetically as pleasing at all.
Thank you.
Anything else?
I just had that question. Thank you.
Thank you.
Councilman Ward, does this help you? This is, trying to get as much on, but this is the phase one approval. These triplexes through here, and then, of course, the area we just changed the elevations on over here. And then this was the other one you approved up, kind of, and I'll try to bring it in. That particular area was phase two that was approved, with single-family lots.
Did we approve elevations on those triplexes? I think we did,
Yes,
right?
we did. They're not asking those to change. They're staying with those.
So the section that has to have a road on 1100 is which section, and which section are you saying is excluded
Well,
from that?
We basically said after 30 units, any 30 units east of Bella Vista Drive, whether they put it in this phase one, the phase two, or this proposal tonight, 30 units is all they get east of Bella Vista Drive. Then 1100 east has to be.
So pull that back and show me Bella Vista Drive again. We're right there.
Yeah, so I'll try to, oh, I did it. There you go. So anything over on this side of that Bella Vista Drive, 1130, they get up to 30 units. That's it.
And those others are going to exit on to utilize Bella Vista as well as Bonnie.
So they couldn't even get that first cul-de-sac
Finished. That's just my concerns. Just overall, the connectivity with 1100 East is my only hinge point. When I can look at these other parts, they could possibly do something, but executing the development as they have it without that, I don't see it as being feasible.
I don't know how the vote is going to go tonight. I know what I'm going to propose, but I really, Mayor, want to commend the partnership of the developers and the community and the city council. You know, it's probably a good situation if none of us are happy. I really, your persistence and input, your emails, your attendance have made a difference in what this project looks like over the last couple of years. There are probably a lot of people that deserve some credit for the improvements, but you deserve a great deal of that credit. Whether you're satisfied, whichever way the vote goes tonight or not, I want you to know that I mean that with all sincerity. It has made a difference to us. Okay.
Any additional questions or comments?
Yeah, I'm going down through my notes
Okay.
here. So we hit, what was the actual parking numbers we hit on this?
If you go to page, it's in page 2 at the top paragraph, and we kind of hit the parking. It's about the third line down. The required parking for the project would be 292 stalls for the apartment units. The applicant is showing 312 stalls. The visitor parking needed would be 38 stalls required. So deducting the 292, the remainder is 20, but they've actually covered that in there. Then on their new proposal they brought to us, they have more than sufficient on there. Plus, I didn't calculate in because at the time when I was doing their parking, didn't realize they had 2-car garages and 2-car driveways as part of each one of those townhomes. You know, they're going to count for 4 parking stalls. So they cover all their visitor parking for the townhome. So that makes up that difference with those 27 being 20 shy. That covers that.
Do we have a boiled down number of how many parking per residence?
3-story or 4-story?
Well, I guess I'm looking at it as an entire
Totality.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd like to base it on the 191 because if you drop it down to 183, then they have even more than sufficient. Does that make sense? So, pretty sure we did here's the parking. And I did go through and count. This is This is what they have.
What's the name, while you're doing that, what's the name of the project south of Bonnie Lane? Because we've changed the names.
So many times.
What do you call them, the ones on the single homes or the town, the triplexes and the single homes are?
Desert
okay,
Ridge.
Desert Ridge.
Is that because of the desert trails and then the other one? So they're all desert, okay.
Oh, sorry. Are you guys done with this overhead? Do you want me to go, or do you want me to stay here and I can put?
No, that's fine. You can go back if you need to display something else.
$340, not including the RV.
Correct. That's just and that's just the apartments. Again, the townhomes take care of their own parking and then some. There's actually additional parking as part
And
of the
your
townhomes.
requirement parking numbers there based off of the 180 or 1.8, is that right? What's that number per dwelling? Is it 1.87? You hear what I'm saying? You have a number in there that says required parking.
It's 2.
That comes off of, so is it 2? You're requiring 2 parking stalls per residence?
Well, the one-bedroom apartments only require 1.1.
1.1?
Okay,
Also, they're different on each
each one. And then the 2 and 3 bedrooms require 2, according to our parking ordinance. And so their numbers are a little bit different. I'm just showing the minimum provided, they're providing 340. As I went through and calculated all, of the units, they're actually above because they didn't put the right numbers on here, but it was for their favor, not against them. Sometimes they'll put their own on there and it's less than what we require. This actually has more.
And do we have, none of this is contingent upon any road design other than 1100. There has been some conversation about a left-hand turn lane on Telegraph at Bella Vista.
That's a condition on phase 1.
That's on a phase 1 condition?
Yeah, I just saw that the other day, so that's there.
Bella Vista, they'll have to stripe Bella Vista Drive.
Yes, and they'll also have to try to get a turn lane, a decel lane coming off of Telegraph.
Okay. That's a condition of phase 1 of.
On the single units over there by the.
And it's already existing and in place.
It's already a condition of approval.
That'll be a decel turning off of
Telegraph into Bella Vista Drive.
Vista. So those are. And Mike, do we know when the warrants would be hit on lights for the two locations that would affect this, Bella Vista and 1100?
We don't. We'd have to do a warrant study on it. We could do a warrant study based on when they get their approvals, but it'd all be time-based of when they're doing those units. But it definitely would be something we start planning for and budgeting for.
So is it possible for this to get built without hitting the warrants on both of those?
If council directs me to.
What I'm asking is based off the warrants.
Warrants have to be existing warrants, not perceived warrants. They have to be an existing deficiency.
But either way, I'm saying if this gets built, is it even possible for those warrants to not get hit? based on?
It's going to be pretty
Is it
hard.
possible?
It's possible, but it's going to be
I'm
with
just wondering if you've looked at it recently and if you have a sense of how close we are to those warrants, or if this is what is going to push
Well-
us over and put us into traffic lights on both those locations.
More than likely will. When this builds out fully, more than likely we will have a signal at both intersections.
But the warrants have to be.
The warrants we have to hit those warrants, and left-hand turning movements is a big, one of the big warrants that we have to meet, or actually pushes us into a signal is left-hand turning movements. Pedestrian traffic is another big item. We need to hit 3 warrants out of 9 or 10. I can't remember how many total warrants that we look at, but we need to hit 3 of those to justify the installation of a signal. And usually they're pedestrian and left-hand turning movements. Time delay is another one. How long do you sit and wait? But with this one here, it's been long enough. I'd have to go back and look through the traffic study. The traffic study would let us know when those warrants would be.
You mean the traffic study that came in with
their development? That's one of the reasons why we ask for traffic study, especially on these bigger developments. The Washington Parkway and Telegraph with the.
That hasn't been done yet.
Well, the one unit.
Needs to be done first.
Yeah, the one unit alone there is with their study. We know we're going to have to put a signal there. So we've already designed it. We've already ordered the equipment. There's a 6-month lead time on equipment. We'll have it here, and as soon as it meets warrants, it'll go up. It'll probably go up prior to warrants, and we just bag the signals.
Sorry, which one are we talking about?
Washington Parkway and Telegraph. It's really, really close on warrant right now, and we probably meet warrants just with the construction traffic going in and out on that one. So this one here is going to be relatively close. The across the street, that not a big movement of traffic there compared to Washington Parkway, but this one's going to be really close, so not too far out.
Thanks, Mike. I guess this is kind of a conversation for the council, but we do have some ordinances in the code that suggest that new developments should make an effort to blend with the neighborhoods and the existing developments and not be an isolated project. We're still, we've done a number of PUDs in the city at this point. Are you feeling like this meets with that, or?
One of my concerns on that, to follow with that, Councilman Ward, I appreciate you leading out on that. I think what was a good example is the contrasting with the concepts of PUD of Stookie Farms tonight, what's going on here. What makes this PUD unique, I think, in my opinion, is its connectivity to existing commercial. Some of our PUDs do not have that benefit of being tied to existing commercial, and plus we're next to a very
In what
busy
way
road.
is it connecting to existing commercial?
We
Just
have the
in
RV
proximity?
the rentals that border this property right here, that the storage unit and everything that's right next to it, storage facilities. So there is commercial bordering it. I think that's a unique thing to consider, and plus the busy road of what we call Telegraph, very close. I think those are some significant things that made us consider this possible compared to a lot of the PUDs that we've done. All right, that's just
I would
thoughts.
say, I was just going to say, I would say I'd rather look at this, the back of it.
Well, I keep on going back to the concept, as I remember when this area was proposed to us as trailers. And what I feel like Councilman Granger brought up, which is really important, is I appreciate citizens coming and saying, well, okay, we don't want to just get density. What can we do? And I've seen this go from a trailer court to something far better. I think it's important to bring that up, that there has been some unique lead out on this to demand a better product. And I see this getting better every time it comes back. So I appreciate the discussion that has brought this to this point. I still think there's some valid concerns, but I think an improvement by far from where we started. So that's
Well,
my thoughts.
I like your point about, you know, what else could go in here, and unless it was commercial, there's the kind of homes that are up on top of the ridge are not the kind of homes that people would buy next to Telegraph.
Correct.
They're just not. And so a lot of the mitigation that's been going on is how do we make this really uniquely, even beautiful place and still acknowledge that it's next to commercial, it's next to rental, it's next to a very busy highway. How do we mitigate that as best we can? And I do think the effort's been significant.
And I know, I appreciate your comment of saying, well, none of us are all happy, so that's probably a good sign. I know I've talked to the residents, they're not against development. They just want to make sure it's responsible and addresses the codes and everything. And I appreciate people studying up and understanding our codes and checking on us as well. I'm leaning more towards the concept of my remaining concerns as a councilman, and just tie this off, is just the concept of, 1100 there. That just really makes me unsettled of really moving forward on this without that being solidified as a part that is nailed down, worked in place, and ready to go.
So, I mean, I guess to me, I'm feeling like it is solidified. They can't build more than 31. You can't put the 31st unit in there until it's done. To me, that's solidified. I guess I feel comfortable with that part of it. And I would have extended that clear across, but I do recognize that there was a motion made on a previous section that's standing on there, but because the one really just comes down to an intersection street, but that's fine.
You want to, or me?
Well, so on the, for the management of the facilities there, can I get an idea from the developer what type of HOA structure and as far as the maintaining the building or requirements they'll have? I think the best projects we've had in the city have had a fairly well-defined management structure within the HOA, and if you'll touch on also how the RV parking will be dealt with in the HOA guidelines and management as well.
Again, Steve Howcroft, we plan to own this, our investment group, and our investment group will put together a management company that will manage it. We will also manage the RV parking, and all of that will be done through the office on site. Does that answer your question?
Well, I guess it does that you're taking a vested internal interest, but I recognize that those can be sold off at any time, when that's necessary. I think I'm hoping that some thought has been given as far as how you'll maintain that and keeping an on-site property management or other ways of maintaining your parking. I mean, if there's complaints or issues on the site, who are they going to go to? How are you going to make sure that this particular property, I mean, this is a large mix of different dwelling sizes and economic backgrounds will be coming in here. How are you going to make sure that stays nice for a long period of time?
Our intent is to do exactly as we have done the seasons at Traverse Mountain. We have 440 units there. We have a management company that manages it. They're on site every day. We address any warranty or maintenance problems within the organization.
Do you have an office here on site?
It will be part of the clubhouse.
And from your experience with those other properties, what rules and regulations and things do you put on your properties that actually helps them stay viable long term?
Well, we have a manual. We haven't created that yet, but we will do the same as we've done in all our other management companies. We'll have rules and regulations that will be for the employees and for the residents. We have never had a complaint from the city about any of our management in any of our projects. We try to do all of that in-house and make it so it's never an issue to the
Well,
city.
the city's not usually going to complain. We may lament that it's going downhill very fast, but we don't really have a vehicle for complaint. I guess I'm hoping for something a little more imaginative and experience with management that lends to keeping a property maintained. I've seen properties, similar to this, that the first renters or the first owners go in, it's great. The next time they sell it, it drops a little bit. The next time it sells, and after a while, there's for sale signs all over the place.
But these aren't going to be sold in. If it's one project, it's one project.
Yeah.
And they would have to bring it back.
I'd
to
assume,
subdivide
I'd
it.
prefer that the applicant answer that, though.
Well, our intent is it's our asset. We want to maintain our asset so it remains of value. I think we have a lot more concern about that than the city does. We'll pay more attention to maintaining our asset, and I think
You don't sleep at night worrying about this?
I don't, because I have people.
Then you do have the same concern.
Yeah, I do, but I have people to make sure it's done, and we follow through and check. And you can go through the seasons. It's been there about 3 years now, and it looks the same as it did the day we opened it. Does that answer your question?
It does. Can you speak maybe to the RV parking? It sounds like maybe you haven't put those together yet as far as rules and regulations for maintaining your RV parking through the HOA.
We haven't. We first need to get our approvals and we'll address all that, but it will be maintained by our management company.
That does answer my questions.
Okay, thank you.
So Drew, I guess can I pass you and have you go pull the code up on that, the open land space, landscape and open space requirements there, just so that I'm clear on how that's functioning in the PUD that we're looking at.
Do you have anything specifically you want to?
Well, you were referencing the section that talks about a minimum requirement of 50%. So I can see the section. Well, let me get back to it here. I can see the section in here requiring for the footprint of that, but I'm failing to find where the guidelines are set forth as far as exactly how much open space they are required to have.
It's B.
Okay.
The minimum lot, the multifamily residential. Like I say, the minimum size to even be considered has to be 20,000 square feet, provided at least 20% of the total project is developed and maintained in common open landscape or recreation area. So again, if you read A, this all goes hand in hand. For any PUD, you can't have any more than 50% building coverage. So someone could come in with a 50-50, conceivably. And then when that, so the next thing down.
50% of it could be just blanket covered by
buildings.
The rest would have to be either open space, roads.
And then out of that remaining, 20% of the project has to be in developed and maintained common open space landscaping. Because again, and that's what the conflict is with the other one, is that you can't do it if it's a 50-50, because where you're going to have your roads, your parking, and your non-landscaped areas. So that's where this is the meat of that. It just says that out of the whole project. So if I have a 10-acre project, I'm just going to put it in simple numbers, that 20%, or in other words, 2 acres, would have to be landscaped open space. This project is showing you 35%.
Your math was 35, theirs was 41.
That's because they based it on the 13 point something without the RV parking. We're looking at the whole project. So again, I want to be more realistic. The whole project is 15.7. And when you throw in all that asphalted area, but it also has a little perimeter landscape, and I want to be more realistic. And that's why I brought it in and told you it's 35% of the whole 15.7.
Well, I appreciate you. I was going to ask you to be more realistic on that.
Mayor, I'm ready to make a motion.
Everybody done with their questions?
So
Okay.
I'm going to make one comment before. I guess I'm with Councilwoman Granger. I'm struggling with the height. Don't have a lot of experience on a 4-level walk-up.
I lived on the 5th level of a 5-level walk-up, and it's,
And look how fit you are.
well, I was fit then.
I feel like
Let me,
rather than questioning you about that, I need to be questioning your wife about that, though.
oh yeah, yeah. And don't get a new puppy either. So let me just make my motion and then we can discuss it if you want. Because of the discrepancy in the different site plans, I'm going to make the motion that we approve site plan on page 4, 3 or 4. They're the same. The only difference is how they're showing.
They are different about the upstairs. It's broken up into 4 buildings versus 2 buildings.
Yeah, but you haven't heard the second and third condition.
Because the first building, there is no patio area on the 4th floor. I'm just making this clear so everybody understands. So page number 4 has the 4th floor of these 4 buildings with patio area. So it is important you pick which one.
Well, hear me out first.
Okay.
That we approve the site plan that's on either page 3 or page 4, but limit it to 3 stories. And that 4th story is gone. That the RV storage is limited to the subdivisions of Desert Ridge, Desert Trails, and Desert Flower.
What does that exclude?
Renting it out to
Renting it out
outside
to
folks.
just anybody.
So okay.
So it's limited to those subdivisions that are part of this development.
Okay.
That down Bella Vista Drive, it's signed no on-street parking. And I believe that's it.
Can I just ask you, do you guys have any preference on the bulb on Bonnie Lane? The bulbing of the street?
I like it on Bonnie Lane.
I'm generally pro bulb.
Because you have to approve that design because Mike doesn't have the authority to do it himself, which he wouldn't, but that's why I'm just asking, because they put it on here and I don't want it to be portrayed and then it come back. And so I want it to be specifically either accepted or not accepted.
No, I like it. So
Okay.
again, if we accept this site plan, that it's as drawn with the bulbing on Bonnie Lane. But again, it's that site plan on 3, page 3 or 4, no 4-story.
4-story, yeah.
RV storage is limited to those, and we're signing Bella Vista Drive as no parking. Well, the other side has a wall on it, so I don't see people parking there. The issue on this side is, do we turn the townhomes in and have a wall, which I don't think is interesting aesthetically, or do we sign it as no parking? Bonnie Lane has the bulbs to where people can be out of the traffic. And so I'm fine with parking along the public street there. I'm just saying Bella Vista Drive, no parking.
I'll second the motion.
Those are the 3,
Those are
correct?
the 3 names that they have, yes.
Seconding the motion.
All right, I have a motion and a second.
I assume that
By-
means all existing conditions is listed.
Right.
Yeah. So by way of conversation, so just, I think we've covered this, but there are no block walls. There's no walls in this subdivision at all.
This trails is intended to be a walkable.
Right, it's
So
all,
there are
it's
no
all
block
open.
walls.
Now, I will clarify, they will be required to put a
On the
block
north?
wall between the commercial piece on the north
Okay, on the north, thank
and on the east.
you. And the east,
Yeah.
There's
Oh,
walls
towards-
on the north
between
and
their
east.
RV parking?
Yes, because
And
any
the-
PUD, if it's next to a commercial zone, has to have a block wall.
So, okay, those two. And then help me understand what is being displayed on page 3 with,
Well, there's
So
a
they're
difference
showing-
between the site plan on page 3 and the 3D site plans on page 7 and 8.
yeah,
They don't show the amenities as descriptively as the ones that are on page 3 or 4. 3 and 4 spells out that there is a terraced gathering area between building 1 and the townhomes, where the other one just shows green space.
correct.
So I wanted to make sure that we get all those specific areas that they're showing as
Okay.
being on here. It also shows pickleball courts. It also shows a playground. It also shows cornhole that isn't part of the other.
So, so as far as, 3, but your motion also said no fourth level
Yes,
in either.
correct.
Yeah, he's just eliminating the blue shaded.
So the buildings
Buildings.
2 and 3 on page 3 would be, well, they're all 3.
But
They're
we're
all
talking eight doors.
8 doors. What do you mean?
That's
Eight
what the request
units.
is for.
8 units are being taken off.
Oh, yeah, thank you.
It's either a denial, because I don't think it'll pass.
Can I just make a comment?
Actually,
We've done quite a bit of demographics and costing on this. I think it's really marginal. We feel that those 8 units up on the 4th floor with patios will rent fairly easy, just because people want the patios. We feel that you eliminating that makes it a very marginal project.
It may be the case, but I don't think you have support on the council
We
to get those
understand.
approved. And so that's why I say, would you rather have a denial, or would you rather have an approval with a reduction in units?
Well, what I'm saying is, once we do the cost and analyze it, we may be back with plan C or D, you know.
Unfortunately, it's not our job to make sure things pencil.
I understand. I just wanted you to.
Well, and I appreciate your comment there.
there's not an argument there.
I do have a motion and a second for the proposed.
We're going to start it.
We'll start with Councilman Ward.
Maybe you should have picked somebody faster. I think it's a decent compromise. My Ward, aye.
Thank you.
Considering the conditions for traffic being addressed that I have, and I feel like this is a great project. I feel like this has come a long way. I will have to say aye.
Granger, aye.
Ellison, aye.
All right, that approves 4-0. Okay, thank you. Move on to item 9, agreement. Consideration to approve an agreement for the Majestic Hills phases 3 and 4. Reimbursement as part of the sanitary sewer trunk line as part of the capital facilities master plan. Mike Shaw.
Thank you, Mayor, Council. Before you is an agreement with D&G Holdings on installation of sewer line that is in our master plan to bring a sewer trunk line up 3650 South. So we can bring it into all the future developments that are coming down that road.
Hold on just a second.
Oh, they weren't here for me?
They were.
I'm sure they were.
Okay, thank you. Start over, Mike. Thank you.
I wanted to make you vote.
So before you is an agreement with DG Property Holdings on installation of a sewer line that is in our sewer master plan. They'll bring the sewer line from basically the Camino Real up 3650 South, extending it to the east for future developments. The developer's in there building a development. The sewer line has to go in now while he's doing the development. He actually received some impact fee credits on his development, but he has to go quite a ways out of his development to bring that sewer line up. So we would be reimbursing him for the construction of the project. I lost my dollar amount here.
Mike, I'm having trouble focusing in on what you're saying. I think it's because of a lack of controversy. Could you inject some controversy in there? That might
I'm
help
really
me.
sorry about that.
Seriously.
I'll step over to this side of the mic. Yeah, so we would be reimbursing the contractor $85,831, which is the amount that's up to, not to exceed that amount. That is the amount that is called out in our sewer master plan for the cost of that line. He will actually be getting 3 bids on that project, and it will be the low bid that we end up paying on it. So with that, I can answer any questions.
Where did this come from? I'm just curious to know how something like this gets initiated. Does it start with the developer? Did you?
Yeah, well, the developer will come in with his plat, and part of his plat, he could sewer down another direction. This is a line that we need in our master plan. We have drainage areas that these drainage areas need to flow to these lines, and these lines need to be constructed. So when the plat comes in, when we're reviewing, we're looking at the future lines that have to go in. So we make sure we're getting them in before a road is constructed.
That knowing that we approach
the developer on this.
We'd
yes.
like you to do that.
Yes. And it's a lot more cost effective for us when it's going in and we're paying, he's required to put in an 8-inch line through his development. And we do this quite often. We pay to upsize the line because the trench is pretty much the same size trench he has to do. We just pay for the pipe upsizing.
This is an upsizing thing
Yeah.
for him. So he's
well, partially upsizing. There's also a section that's not in that has to be installed. So we're responsible for that section. And that's what the reimbursement money's for, is that section that we would have to pay to put in.
Mayor, if there's no things to further discuss, I'd like to approve the agreement for the Majestic Hills. The motion we make an approval of the agreement for Majestic Hills phases 3 and 4 reimbursement as part of the sanitary sewer trunk line as part of the capital facilities master plan.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
A motion and a second.
Ellison, aye.
Granger, aye.
Clough, aye. Ward, aye.
Thank you. That's approved. Item 10, road dedication. Consideration to approve the dedication plat for Telegraph Phase 2 amended and extended roadway dedication located along Telegraph Road from approximately 200 feet west of Washington Parkway to Coral Canyon Boulevard. Mike Shaw.
This is just kind of cleaning up part of our roadway on Telegraph. Initially, when we reconstructed Telegraph up over the ridge through Coral Canyon and out to SR9, that was done with federal funding. We were required to get, I believe it was a 300-foot right-of-way for that road project. Wow. The roadway through there was deeded over at no cost to us by SITLA. And through some going-ons, we've actually, with Coral Canyon, we've narrowed it down to a 200-foot right-of-way, or 250
feet?
50 or 60?
It says 250 on here. 160-foot right-of-way with 35-foot easements on the shoulders. So we would take it down from the 300-foot right-of-way to 160-foot right-of-way. The property would be going back to the adjoining property owners, which in turn would be SITLA on this project. Like I say, if you go through the plat map, you see areas that's already been, we've deeded those back to SITLA. And this is just cleaning up the rest away on this road, getting it back to what we actually need. And we don't foresee we'll ever need any more than 160-foot right-of-way on that road.
Well, we won't be able to put a downhill runway in there then.
We won't. No luge runs.
No kids on trikes.
That might fit, actually.
What? Okay.
So again, just curious, where did this one come from? Did Sitla initiate this, or did you?
No, I actually initiated it. I just was running across some of the plats and noticed that this is one that we've had where we vacated a portion here and vacated a portion here. And I thought it's a great time. I called Sitla, talked to them. They actually paid for the plats to be drawn up. So this has been no cost to us to deed that property back to Sitla. Most of that property is unusable for anything because a lot of it's hillside going up and over Telegraph. But
Well, Mayor, if there's no more discussion, I make a motion to approve the dedication plat for Telegraph Phase 2, amended and extended roadway dedication located along Telegraph Road from approximately 250 feet west of Washington Parkway to Coral Canyon Boulevard.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Yeah, I'll second
I have a motion and a second.
Ward, aye.
Clough, aye.
Granger, aye.
it. Ellison, aye.
All right, that's approved.
thank you.
Move on to the resolution, item 11. Consideration to approve a resolution to establish the allocation of RAP tax funds. Brian, are you? All right. Council
Brian's
Stucker.
here for backup if you have any specific question.
We need to make sure we spell his name
Brian,
right, though.
Numbers or anything like that. But
Tara.
This is what council's been talking about for a while. About
Brown.
to establish kind of some predetermined direction in how distribution would be made. This is the same resolution that you saw yesterday with Kimberly and talked about. The only change has been, if you'll see in paragraph 2, there was some question that you guys raised, and that was, well, yeah, but these are specific percentages. What if we decide, we want to change these a little bit? Paragraph 2 gives you that right to be able to change those percentages based upon what you make a determination for in the best interest of the city at that time. So it's all going to be based on you having to discuss it and it being reasonably debatable and being for the city's best interest. So that just gives you that flexibility that you also kind of wanted, but you've also got that direction which you've been looking for also. And Brian, if you want to just say some numbers, it'd be fine. Okay.
I appreciate
Brian's clarifying this so much better than me.
I appreciate the conversation that we've had so far. I think this is a great motion in the right direction. If there's no further conversation, I make a motion to approve the resolution to establish the allocation of RAP tax funds as we've discussed as a council.
Second.
Well, we have a motion and a second.
We go in at 35%.
40 and 25.
Correct.
Should I say that? I apologize.
No.
Well, I'm just looking here,
Resolution.
I'm trying to remember how I guess I'm drawing a blank on this.
Equals 100%.
Oh, cultural arts. Yeah.
Knowing that it is fully within the interpretation of the council, as now is the direction given.
And where,
You may not
we
be
had all
updated.
those numbers in front of us at one point as far as. Yeah, I'm looking at those numbers now. I found them here. Well, I don't know. I'm looking at what I need to. I was trying to think, well, I guess it was our engineers who presented this to us. I was just trying to think, where do we fit in line with these numbers right now? We're pretty close to what this is.
We are.
Yeah, because we haven't been spending all of it. Almost, I think there's actually a little more than 50% that we haven't been, that we still have in reserve, correct?
Correct.
And we're not making this retroactive. This is going forward.
Going forward, yeah.
No, but I do appreciate that it contemplates in here setting some aside for future projects, so.
Oh, yes. Let's see.
And, just for the record, I think part of our discussion yesterday includes setting up a planning, developing committee to give some direction and planning and goals to this effort.
Advisory committees, similar to what the county has. Yeah.
And I appreciate what's proposed as, an exploratory community to start as an initial step for 90 days, moving into a possibility of extending it to the life of the RAP tax. So I'm looking forward to talking about this and continuing to add some context and direction of what we want done with this.
Well, so I'm just looking at the language here as I'm thinking through this. So you've got 35% shall be appropriated to cultural facilities and arts. So your intent of that is for a cultural arts facility.
Could be.
Because then the second portion of that is 40% shall be appropriated to a recreational facility and programs. In the verbiage here, those two overlap for me.
Which two, A and B?
Yeah, and by that I mean I'm not sure what they both cover that's different than the other.
I could say a cultural facility could be an art museum. A recreational facility could be a hockey rink.
It could be a performance theater. It could be.
And as I understand from what Kimberly explained to me, based upon previous discussion the council had, was it too, that there, some of it may go towards what we've been doing, some for recreational, even into programs along that kind of genre versus cultural, which is, more of a, I guess from my perspective, artsy, we're not going to be, yeah, which we hadn't necessarily broken out in the past or had much of a guide anyway. I think you're thinking of wanting to have an advisory committee makes a big step in supporting,
I like that.
Wanting to make distinctions between those also.
Yeah, so I guess what I expected is I thought we were only calling out some money to be set aside for a cultural arts facility.
Not for a recreational facility
No,
as well.
I think it's facility and arts. There's a lot we could do. It could be the art in the park. It could be the statues like they do in St. George. It could be lots of things. But we need to set some money aside and then start to do some planning before we spend it and see where it best goes. So some of the initial discussion, Councilman, was about, do we need a facility in the future? But we do, but I think we need a plan for the arts.
Right, so I guess I have two things that are concerning me. One is I thought we were only calling out for
The arts.
an arts location to held some money out. So I guess that was, maybe I just missed that part of the conversation because this is calling out 3 items here. I was only expecting to see it being called out one as far as and creating somewhat of a reserve so we could put some money away until maybe even a future council decides they want to actually move forward on something like that. The second is I don't, because part of my hope with this was that we would trying to think of the language I used before, but pass on some intelligence and some thinking to future councils. This isn't clear enough for me to understand what it is, let alone I don't think future councils are going to see this as a sufficient amount of clarity to give them guidance.
So what would you change on it?
Well, I guess I would just call out that I think we decided on a 35%. 35% shall be appropriated for a cultural arts facility to be held in reserve until such time as a cultural arts facility becomes a viable option in the city. The second here, I don't really know what we're calling for would be. I'm not sure what that means. Recreational facilities and programs, that sounds to me like sports. But I didn't think we called that out. I thought we were just kind of leaving that open and then the other 25% for nonprofit and grants. I didn't think we specified that in any of our previous conversations to do that.
Well, it was there last night.
I must have missed it.
That's not new from last night.
The only thing I've added to Kimberly's resolution was number 2, which gave flexibility that those aren't locked in numbers.
Right. In discussion with you, Councilman Ward, I agree with where you're going, but I looked at this amendment last night off our discussion, and I felt like it still gave us the right intention and direction. It is an amenity. It is an addition to what we did talk about in depth but we did briefly touch upon, okay, what percentage there were. So I feel like we've discussed it a little bit. And what I like about this is we still have the opportunity to interpret this. This is a direction. And if this feels like it is the wrong direction as we're going forward, this can be struck, changed, and amended. I still feel like the overall thing is we're trying to provide guidance, and I can see your hang up and concern about another facility when we didn't go into that in depth.
Well, it says and programs, but I guess I'm less, I don't want to send the signal to staff that we're saying 40% of the RAP tax should just go to sports or other recreations. I think we got to take that as a case by case going forward. If they want to present those to us, if that money isn't already allocated, they want to present that to us. I think I'm just not ready to make that clarification that that's.
Well, we could just talk about the cultural part of it. We could eliminate the other percents and just say 35% is going to go into culture.
If that, I'd be willing to make an amendment if that is something that you feel strongly about.
Designate what those other percentages
easily,
are.
that's easily adjusted if that's what the council's thinking. I think the 35 was over several probably conversations.
Yeah, I do think the 35 could be clarified. I mean, again, part of my hope was just sending some intelligence to a future council to be looking at this and saying, okay, this is what we're trying to do. I realize that means they actually have to read it, but I think I think A needs to be clarified to at least add on there that we want to keep that reserve up in a fund designated for a future cultural arts facility until such time as
given that we've done so little with the arts, I'm not as eager to eliminate it just to a facility until we've got an advisory committee in place that can give us a more comprehensive look of what perhaps we could as a city be doing in the arts. And to say that it's only for a facility when there may be other needs in order to utilize that facility, in order to build programs that could utilize the facility, that those go hand in hand. I think that we have an advisory committee. I don't want to limit it that much. I don't mind eliminating the percents in the other two categories. It's just saying it's RAP, it's recreation arts and whatever. So
at that point, do you put the committee together first and seek for their recommendation on distribution?
I think that would certainly come back to the cabinet or
so I
to
guess
the
that
council.
That to me calls into question, then what are you accomplishing by setting out the 35%?
Some intention to do something in the arts.
Then I could certainly go for that.
So is there any that anybody's aware of on our timing? I'm not aware just in my head offhand when the next distribution. So we broke those into two time
I know
periods,
that they said that.
So
they just haven't accounted for it. It's come in
to beat something next month then.
No, but the one you have coming up next in my mind is, Brigham's Playhouse at the end of the year. Didn't you agree to give him?
They were here
January
a month and a half, 2 months.
So if they're still in business, you say you'd give them the balance.
For January, then distribution.
Councilman Bellis,
Can I? January and July.
What was the question? What were you going to bring up?
Well, I just, because with the understanding that Brigham's may not be here, because they've told us that, can I make a suggestion that on item 1C, we change it to up to 25% may be appropriated towards grants for nonprofit cultural? Because I don't think that it makes sense to start putting 25% into a fund
and then they start pulling
and then not really have a venue for it to go, because at that point it can go into a cultural art facility or it could go into a park, but I think using that terminology up to 25% may be appropriated towards the grants for nonprofit makes sense. And I think it's fair to say, in the past we've been giving the bulk of those funds to Brigham's, but I think it's also fair to say, potentially some of the recreation groups could apply for that portion, right? We have, I just use Ironman as an example. It's funded by the county, but we have different tournament groups, different event groups. I mean, they could come and request some of those funds too, because it does feed into
Recreation arts and parks.
the community, and the community.
Well, if I may, within what's been said, just make an amendment to my motion, along with consideration to approve the resolution to establish of RAP tax funds. 1A is with the intention to keep in reserve the percentage that's been proposed. 1B and 1C to strike the percentages and to keep those within the concept of the RAP as it is. And then the amendment to 1C that we will incorporate the word may into the verbiage. Instead of
I just-
shall.
Or just use the term up to 25%.
Up to, knowing that there will be more revisions to come based upon the establishment of a governing board to help us get better direction within this.
But why,
Advisory board.
why, I guess technically I should wait for a second on that, but
To your amended motion?
I amended my motion.
I'll second your amended motion.
so
for a second.
I guess just by way of conversation with that, why do this blocking in before you bring out an advisory council?
'Cause
I can see sending them a message that we want a cultural arts facility, and I think that's all I was really prepared to do tonight.
Right.
But if we're going to seek for a cultural arts advisory council, let's get their advice. We're the city council, we don't have to take it.
Right.
But let's put them together and let's see what.
Well, my
what that
reasoning for
advice
being
is.
okay moving forward on this is that what we have agreed upon in this motion is something we have talked about. And I think with this bringing the advisory board, we're just opening up to a step 2, not limiting the concept of the advisory board, just opening up their influence.
Yeah,
Councilman-
but I agree, but
Councilman Ward, could I put it in this context? We have a planning commission that operates based on the ordinances that we provide to them or the direction that we give to them. We don't take direction from the planning commission on how to legislate.
Right.
Does that make sense?
This is a
So the
great-
resolution gives direction to an advisory board on what we're thinking on how to focus those funds.
Yeah, no, that makes perfect sense. I mean, I still disagree with it, but it makes perfect sense.
Okay, well,
Okay, let's move on. I have a motion and a second.
Man, that was, well, so.
I have a motion and a second. Will you start?
Granger,
Fluff
aye.
eye.
Board name.
Okay, so I just want to be clear on where you'd like us to go with this. Brian, you sure you don't want to come take part? So-
we're done.
Well, I
So
think
just
part
in
of the
your motion, you want
urgency of
me-
that is we have money flowing in. that
It
we need to
is,
start
and we have a
setting
base.
aside,
I appreciate the concept.
You know, so let's get with
So we've
that.
approved a resolution. So I just want to make sure that we're clear.
Start to set it up.
So on 1 and C are the ones really affected. 1, we're going to include the intention, so Council Ward, on 1, we want to include the intention that there's no misunderstanding that the 35% that we kind of have as a goal may mean that those funds are set apart and held. That
It does mean
35%, it may be 20, it may be 30% of that is held for future use. And in C, at least a change from the subtle change in the intent there would be that they may appropriate or designate up to 25%. So we've kind of at least changed those two to an extent, but 1A being really.
Are we removing B?
Percentages associated with 1B.
Okay, yeah, we don't have to have this equal 100%.
No,
Well,
we moved it back to the
won't.
concept of the RAP.
It's just talking about what's important to us in the RAP tax that we haven't paid much attention to. That's all it's doing.
Yeah. I think we can just say easily then.
Yeah, I know yesterday when Kimberly showed me, she had a bunch of different percentages on graphs, and it was
Right.
broken out by.
Mr. Brown, would you like to?
And I don't know where
tell us
the percentages came from. It was in a meeting.
We were given several
Yeah, that's-
choices and we picked one that we thought fit and we did that by motion.
It's all semantic.
So it's all restricted, and we can make it happen however.
You can make it
We
happen.
understand
You guys
that,
can make it
that
happen however you want to make it happen.
this is not restrictive. This resolution is simply intent.
You know, 2 really gives you open the whole thing,
Yeah.
but I think that's a good idea. The intent really was, we want to make sure for A, that money can be set apart. We don't have to have we don't have to designate now. And the C, we want to make sure we're not going above 25% if somebody wanders in with a nonprofit that just wants to do it. Okay, I think we can do that.
I think we're okay.
Yeah, I hear you.
Just ensure the fence.
She'll have it fixed. We'll trust her.
Guys, I'll just amend, council, I'll just amend that shoot around, make sure it's what your intent was.
Yeah.
I'm gonna tell him if you don't close that right now.
At the end of the day, you still control the money, so that's all we need to worry about. Okay, let's move on to our report. Anything to
Hey,
report?
so Brian, did you have a comment that you were going to make?
Yeah.
You came forward and
He already made it.
Yeah.
He may have made it. I don't think I heard it though.
We were everywhere there. But I think we all want to hear you.
No, we don't. No, let's move on. Yeah, he's.
Yeah, no, we did. We had 3 choices. We picked this percentage.
Yeah, last night Kimberly showed me the 3, there was 3 graphs and you had 3 choices.
You were
And that's
here
where the
last night, weren't
percentages
you?
came from, is
Yeah.
all driven off of that.
Mr. Councilman
And so,
Ward.
but then City Attorney Starkey mentioned that you wanted to be able to adjust it, so we made that adjustment as well last night. Item 2.
All right, thanks, Brian.
I know you both are, but I still.
If there's nothing to report, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. All right. See y'all next time.
Don't we have to have a majority vote on that first?
No, you're adjourned.